Marcus Sterling felt trapped by his own family name. Every morning, he woke in a room filled with expensive furniture and family portraits that reminded him of the Sterling fortune. His father, Victor Sterling, was a powerful man. He had built a business empire worth billions, and he expected Marcus to follow in his footsteps. Marcus had studied finance at the best schools. He had learned how to run meetings, how to speak with confidence, and how to wear a perfect suit. Yet he yearned for something different, a life not planned down to the minute by someone else. One cold December evening, Marcus drove home from his office. Snow fell softly around his black luxury sedan. He glanced at his watch. It was after 9. Streets were quiet. Suddenly his car jerked, the engine stalled, and his headlights dimmed. Shh! He pulled over to the side of the road near a city park. He tried to restart the engine, but it would not turn over. Marcus sighed, annoyed. He reached for his cell phone, but it had died earlier that afternoon. He stepped out into the cold, wrapping his coat tighter. His breath steamed in the air. He walked a few steps toward the park entrance, hoping to find someone to help. The lamps along the path cast pools of yellow light on the snow. In one of these pools, he saw a figure huddled beneath a tree. Elise Rivera sat on a thin blanket, her arms wrapped around her knees. She wore layers of clothing, an old sweater, a patched jacket, and a scarf knitted by a friend. She had found shelter in the park because she had nowhere else to go. Her life had been hard for a long time. A series of bad events, losing her job, getting evicted, facing medical bills, had pushed her into homelessness. Yet she had refused to give up. Every day, she woke before sunrise to find cans she could return for a few coins. She cooked simple meals on a small camp stove and kept her twin daughters, Mia and Maya, safe. Mia and Maya, both 8 years old, lay asleep wrapped in 2 worn blankets. Their matching faces were peaceful in sleep, even though their home was uncertain. Lise watched them, her heart tightening with both love and worry. She dreamed of a better life for them. She fought every morning to ensure they had breakfast, to keep their spirits bright, and to remind them that their mother would do everything she could for them. When Marcus noticed the children, he felt a sharp tug at his chest. He knelt in the snow, raising his voice gently. "Are you okay?" he asked Elise. His voice sounded strange and unfamiliar to her, polished, calm, curious. At first, Elise hesitated. She had faced suspicion from many people before. Some thought she was lazy or dangerous, but she knew that kind of judgment only came from fear. She stood slowly, brushing snow off her coat. Her dark hair fell around her face. She held her scarf tight around her neck. "We're fine," she said. Her tone was cautious but polite. She did not know why this wealthy-looking stranger had stopped. Marcus pointed to his car. "My car broke down. I need someone to help me call a tow truck." Elise's eyes softened. She reached into a small bag and pulled out a cell phone with a cracked screen. As Marcus dialed, he watched the way Elise and her daughters interacted. Mia and Maya stirred. They opened their eyes and saw Marcus. Their faces lit up with surprise. They both sat up, rubbing their eyes. When they saw Elise speaking to Marcus, they smiled shyly. One of them waved a small hand. Marcus lowered the phone and waved back. Children looked curious but not afraid. The tow truck arrived 20 minutes later. The driver was polite, but looked at Elise and her children with polite pity. Marcus paid for the tow. He thanked Elise and offered her a card, he said. "If you ever need help, Call me. Elise hesitated. She was proud. But something about Marcus's gentle voice made her nod. She took the card without speaking. Marcus watched as the tow truck drove his car away. He looked back at Elise and the twins. He rose in his chest. He made a sudden decision, said, "Let me drive you and the girls somewhere warm. I have an empty suite downtown." He pointed to a grand building across the street. Elise shook her head. She whispered, "No, sir, I'm fine." She looked at the children. Mia and Maya both said, "Please, Mama." Their voices were small but hopeful. Marcus felt moved by their trust. He opened the car door and said, "It's okay. I want to help." Eventually, Elise climbed in with her daughters. Inside, the leather seats were warm. The girls pressed their faces against the glass, watching the city lights. They pointed at signs and laughed softly. Marcus smiled. A genuine smile he did not often allow himself to show. When they reached the hotel, Marcus led them to a suite. It was luxurious. Plush chairs, thick carpets, velvet curtains. He showed them the beds and made sure the girls were comfortable. He brought blankets and extra pillows. Elise stood by the window, uncertain. "I don't belong here," she said quietly. Marcus turned to her. "You belong wherever you want to be," he said. Words sounded simple, but they carried warmth. Elise looked at him, eyes shining. She said, "Thank you." For a moment, they just stood there in silence, two people from very different worlds, connected by a single moment of kindness. Victor Sterling learned about this meeting the next morning. He sat in his study, a room lined with books and awards. He held a newspaper that praised his son's unexpected act of charity. But Victor saw more than a good headline, saw an opportunity. His empire had grown so large that public opinion mattered more than ever. A story about Marcus helping a homeless mother and her children could improve their family image. He called Marcus into the office. Marcus entered, nervous. He had never seen his father look so serious. Victor gestured to a chair. "Tell me everything," he said. Marcus described the car trouble, the meeting in the park, the children. Victor nodded, absorbing every detail. Then he leaned forward. "I want you to marry her." Marcus froze. "Marry who?" he asked, confused. "Elise Rivera," Victor said. "She and her children will join our family. It will show that the Sterlings care about people like her." Marcus felt a rush of emotions. Shock, anger, confusion. "You can't be serious," he said. "You barely know her." Victor's eyes hardened. "I know enough. You will marry her. This is my decision." Marcus's heart pounded. He cared for Elise, but he did not love her. He did not want to make promises he could not keep. He thought of Elise's life, the struggle she faced every day. How could he ask her to enter a world that would judge her? Yet he also knew his father would not back down. Victor's word was law. That night, Marcus returned to the hotel suite. Elise was in the living room, reading a storybook to Mia and Maya. The girls listened closely, their faces bright with wonder. Marcus knocked softly. Elise looked up. Marcus closed the door behind him and stood for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "Elise," Marcus said, his voice gentle, "I have to tell you something." Elise looked at him, concerned. "What is?" Marcus took a deep breath. He said, "My father wants me to marry you." Elise blinked, surprised. She closed the book and held it to her chest. "Excuse me?" she whispered. Marcus explained. He told her about the meeting with Victor, about how this was meant to be a public display of goodwill. Elise sat down, her mind racing. The twins crawled into her lap and looked up at Marcus with wide eyes. "Is this real?" Elise asked. She looked at Marcus, searching his face for a clue. He met her gaze and nodded. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't ask for this. But I want to help you and the girls." "I thought this might be the best way." Elise felt her heart twist. She looked at her daughters. They were so young, so trusting. She wanted to protect them. She wanted them to have a home, safety, and love. But she feared what this marriage would cost her independence, her dignity. She stood, pulling the girls close. "I need time," she said. "I can't decide now." Marcus watched her, understanding. He bowed his head. "I'll give you time." That night, Elise lay awake while Mia and Maya slept soundly beside her. She thought of her life on the streets, of every struggle and small victory, of Marcus, the stranger who offered warmth and shelter. She wondered whether she could trust him, whether this marriage could truly help her daughters. She did not know the answer, but she knew her world had changed forever. Deep inside, she felt a spark of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this unlikely meeting could lead to something better for all of them. Marcus Sterling arrived at Elise's small apartment the next morning just as the sun peeked through gray clouds. The building was old, with peeling paint and broken steps. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cleaning soap and yesterday's coffee. Elise stood in the kitchenette, stirring oatmeal in a chipped bowl, while Mia and Maya sat at the tiny table, their faces serious as they tried to pour milk without spilling. Marcus watched from the doorway, feeling unsure. He remembered how proud Elise had been of this modest home, how she had turned a small corner of it into a safe place for her girls. Now he carried papers and envelopes in his hand, legal documents, hotel reservations, bank account forms. His father had moved quickly overnight. Elise looked up when she saw Marcus. Her chest tightened. She gently set the spoon on the counter and wiped her hands on her jeans. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wary. Marcus held out the stack of papers. "These are for you," he said. "They're from my father. He wants you and the girls to move into the Sterling estate. He's arranged a trust fund, legal help, and he's given us a private suite in the city until the house is ready." Elise took the documents carefully. She skimmed them, her brow furrowing. The trust fund would pay for their needs. The legal help would transform her status overnight. The private suite would be more than she had ever dreamed. Yet she thought of the apartment they had made their home. She thought of the neighbors who knew her as the single mother who cared for her children. She thought of her own sense of independence, built on years of struggle and small victories. "I appreciate this," she said, "but I need time to think." Marcus nodded. He set the papers on the counter. "Take all the time you need," he said. He forced a smile. "I'll come back tonight with lunch." Elise offered a polite nod and he left. Outside, Marcus felt the weight of his father's plans pressing on him. The Sterling estate was a grand mansion in a wealthy part of the city. It had sweeping lawns, marble statues, and columns that told of old money. As he drove there, Marcus rehearsed what he would say to his father. He cared for Elise and her daughters, but he did not know if marriage was the right step. He worried that his father had turned a human life into a trophy. Worried about Elise losing her freedom. He worried that he had fallen into a trap of family expectations. Victor Sterling sat behind his oak desk, which gleamed under a crystal chandelier. Looked up when Marcus entered. "Good," he said. "Did you deliver the documents?" Marcus laid them on the desk. Victor picked them up and thumbed through the pages. "She will move into the estate," he said. His voice carried the finality of a judge. "The press will announce it next week. We'll spin it as a genuine union, a merging of two worlds." Marcus cleared his throat. "I'm not sure Elise will agree so quickly. She needs time." Victor's face darkened. "Time is a luxury we don't have. We must control the narrative. Now, the board meetings happen in 2 days. We'll need to show unity." Marcus swallowed, feeling the old ache of being trapped. "Father, this isn't a merger. It's a person's life. She's not a business partner." Victor leaned back. "She will be part of our family. It makes her a partner in our enterprise." Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to argue, but knew his father would not yield. Without another word, he turned and left the office. That afternoon, Marcus met Elise at a small deli near her apartment. He carried brown paper bags filled with sandwiches and juice boxes. When Elise arrived, she held Mia's hand, and Maya skipped at her side. Elise gave Marcus a brief smile. "Thank you for bringing lunch," she said. They sat on a bench near the window. Mia and Maya each took a juice box and sat quietly, observing Marcus with curious eyes. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Elise spoke. "I've been thinking," she said. "I'm not against moving into the house. I want a safe place for the girls, but I worry about what I lose. My apartment may be small, but it's mine. I know every crack in the wall and each neighbor's name. Marcus nodded, understanding. I can't force you, he said. But I hope you see that you and the girls deserve a better life. Elise smiled sadly. Deserve. I like that word. She looked out the window. I'm scared too. I've never known this world. What if I break their china by accident? What if someone judges me? I don't want pity, I want respect. Mia and Maya listened, their faces thoughtful. And Mia said, Mama, I want a big bed to share with you, Maya added, and a garden to play in. Elise reached over and squeezed their hands. We'll see, she said. That evening, Elise arrived at the Sterling estate. A black limousine had whisked her and the girls away. They stepped onto a grand marble porch. A butler greeted them and offered hot chocolate in fine china cups. Elise felt as though she were in a dream. A tall woman in a tailored suit introduced herself as the estate manager. Mrs. Lawson, she guided them through high ceilings, gilded frames, and chandeliers that glittered like diamonds. Mia gasped at the long library, with its endless shelves of books. Maya ran her hand along a velvet drape and squealed in delight. Elise followed behind, feeling both awe and unease. Mrs. Lawson showed them a suite of rooms decorated in soft blues and creams. 2 bedrooms, one for Elise and one shared by the twins. There was a small sitting room with a fireplace, a kitchenette, and a balcony overlooking manicured gardens. It was beautiful, safe, perfect. But Elise's stomach churned. Thank you, she managed to say. Marcus arrived moments later. He wore dark jeans and a simple sweater, less formal than usual. He smiled at Elise. Welcome home, he said. Softly, Elise forced a smile. Home, she echoed, her voice low. She felt the twins tug at her skirt. Come see your rooms, she said, turning to them. They ran ahead, laughter echoing through the halls. After they explored, Elise and Marcus found themselves alone in the sitting room. Fire crackled in the hearth, and the soft light made the room warm. Marcus sat on a velvet chair, Elise perched. On the edge of the sofa, they studied each other in the glow. Elise, Marcus said, choosing his words carefully. I know this world is foreign to you. I want you to feel at ease here. Tell me what you need. Elise looked at him. She studied his face, the kindness in his eyes, the concern in his brow. I need honesty, she said. I need to know that you and your father see me as a person, not as a picture for the newspapers. Marcus nodded. Elise let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Then let me find my place, she said. Over the next days, Elise began to settle in. She learned to navigate grand rooms and staff schedules. The butler, Mr. Harris, taught her proper etiquette while carrying trays of tea. The cook, Rosa, showed her how to use the high-end stove and invited her to prepare breakfast alongside her in honor that made Elise smile. The twins attended a private school arranged by Victor. They wore matching uniforms and made new friends. Marcus visited often, guiding Elise through meetings with lawyers and bankers. He explained how the trust fund worked, how the estate's finances were managed, how to sign checks and review statements. Elise listened carefully, her confidence growing with each lesson. One evening, Victor invited Elise and Marcus to the boardroom. It was a grand space, with a long mahogany table and chairs upholstered in dark leather. Large windows overlooked the city skyline. The board of directors sat around the table. They were stern men and women in sharp suits. Elise's heart pounded. As she entered, she stood beside Marcus at the head of the table. Victor gave a brief introduction, praising Elise's courage and wisdom. Then he invited her to speak. Elise took a deep breath. She looked at the directors and then at Victor. She spoke in clear, simple words. Thank you for welcoming me. My daughters and I are grateful. I care deeply about our future together. I will do my best to honor this family and its values. I promise to work hard, learn quickly, and support Marcus in any way I can. The directors exchanged glances and nodded. One woman said, Welcome to the team, Mrs. Sterling. Elise smiled, her heart warm. She felt respected. Marcus caught her eye and gave her a proud nod. She realized then that she was not alone. She had allies in this world. That night, Elise and Marcus walked through the gardens. The moonlight cast soft shadows on trimmed hedges and blooming flowers. Mia and Maya played near a fountain, their laughter echoing. Elise paused and took Marcus's hand. "I never dreamed I could do this," she said. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "You're doing more than you know," he said. Elise looked at the stars. She felt a mix of hope and fear, excitement and caution. She thought of her old life, the battles she had fought, the nights she had worried, the small joys she had cherished. She thought of her new life, the lessons she was learning, the acceptance she was earning, the possibilities before her. She knew the journey would not be easy. There would be moments of doubt and criticism, moments when she missed the simplicity of her old world. But she also knew that with Marcus by her side, and with her daughter's bright eyes looking up at her, she could build a bridge between two worlds. As they strolled, Elise felt a quiet determination. She would learn the ways of the Sterling family without losing herself. She would show her daughters that dreams could come true, even when life seemed impossible. She would earn respect through hard work and honesty. In that moment, under the moonlit sky, Elise awoke before dawn, the sky still dark outside her bedroom window. She slipped quietly from her bed so she would not wake Mia and Maya. In the sitting room, she found Marcus, seated at a small table piled with his father's papers and old photographs. A single lamp cast a warm glow over his serious face. Elise walked over and looked at the spread. She saw a black and white photo of a younger Victor Sterling with a woman who looked almost like her. Her heart skipped a beat. "Good morning," Marcus said softly, surprised to see her. "I was hoping to find you here." Elise did not reply at once. She reached for the photograph. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Marcus leaned forward, picked up the photo and held it gently. "That's my father when he was younger," he said. "And that's Lily, his first love." Elise's breath caught. Elise's face in the photo could have been her own. Same dark hair, same kind eyes. Elise felt her hand shake. "She looks familiar," she whispered. Marcus nodded. "Never knew much about her until last night. I found these papers in my father's study." He pointed to a worn letter beside the photo. "That letter says Lily tried to find him years later." He never answered. Elise stared at his face. Why would he not answer? She asked, "Did they have a fight?" Marcus shrugged, uneasy. "I don't know. My father does not talk about her. He never mentioned Lily or any children." He paused. "But look." He tapped the letter. "It mentions 2 girls, twins, born when Lily and Victor were together." Elise's heart pounded. She felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her. She thought of Mia and Maya, her precious girls. Her mind raced with questions. Could Victor be their father? She shook her head, trying to steady herself. "This can't be true," she said. Marcus reached out and touched her hand. "We need to know," he said softly. "For you and for the girls." Elise pulled her hand away, trembling. She turned and walked to the window, wiping her eyes. Outside, the gardens lay quiet in the pre-dawn chill. She took a deep breath and faced him. "I need proof," she said. Marcus nodded. "I'll speak with my father today. I'll ask him directly." Elise glanced back at the photograph. "I'll need time to think," she said. Marcus rose and crossed the room. "Of course," he said. "I'm here for you." Left the room, leaving Elise alone with her thoughts. She sank into a chair, the letter and photograph resting on the table before her. She thought of her life before the Sterlings. Nights spent huddled in park benches, mornings searching for cans to return, her daughter's laughter echoing through empty streets. She had built her life on struggle and hope. Now she faced a secret that could change everything. When the sun rose, Elise prepared breakfast for Mia and Maya. She tried to keep her voice steady as she called them to the table. They bounded in, their cheeks rosy from sleep. Elise smiled at them and served oatmeal. The girls chattered happily about their dreams. Elise forced herself to laugh and nod, but inside her mind, she replayed the photograph and letter. Her daughters looked up at her with trust and love. She could not let fear rob them of their security. Marcus arrived shortly before the estate staff brought in fresh juice and pastries. He greeted Elise with a careful smile. "Good morning," he said. He handed her a cup of coffee. Their eyes met, and Elise felt her resolve strengthen. Nodded. "Did you speak with your father?" Marcus hesitated, his lips pressed together. "Not yet," he admitted. "He's at a board meeting. I'll try again after lunch." Elise nodded. She did not want to push him. She waited quietly, watching her daughters laugh over spilled berries. Every moment she spent with them, she felt the weight of her decision. If Victor was their father, what would that mean? Would they be part of the Sterling dynasty? They lose their mother's simple love? Would Elise become a stranger in her own children's story? After breakfast, Elise took the twins for a walk in the gardens. The morning air was crisp, and dew sparkled on the grass. Mia and Maya held hands and ran ahead, their footsteps echoing on the stone paths. Elise followed, her mind heavy. She watched her daughters chase butterflies near a fountain. Their laughter rang clear. She knelt beside the water and studied her reflection. She looked tired but determined. She loved her girls more than anything. She would protect them, no matter the cost. When they returned to the main house, Mrs. Lawson, the estate manager, greeted them. She spoke with kindness. "Good morning, Mrs. Rivera," she said. "I hope you and the twins enjoy the gardens." Elise smiled politely, but kept her thoughts to herself. She thanked Mrs. Lawson and led the girls inside. By noon, Victor Sterling was back in his study. Marcus joined him with a deep breath. "Father," Marcus began, "I need to know about Lily." Gethra looked up, his expression guarded. "What about Lily?" he asked. "At?" Marcus placed the photograph and letter on the desk.
"At?"
"These belong to her," he said. "She wrote that. You had twin daughters? Is it true?" Victor's face flickered with surprise and pain. He leaned back and closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his gaze was sharp. "That was a long time ago," he said, irrelevant to now. Marcus pressed on. "Elise's girls are 8 years old. They look just like Lily and you in that photo." He watched his father's face carefully. Victor's jaw tightened. "Your concern is flattering but unnecessary," he said. "Lily and I parted ways. There is no connection to these girls." Marcus felt a surge of frustration. "We deserve the truth," he said. "Elise deserves the truth. The girls deserve to know if they belong here by blood." Victor's eyes hardened. "You overstep your bounds," he said, his voice cold. "I will not discuss this further." Marcus sighed. He knew arguing with his father would get him nowhere. He bowed his head. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I only want what's right." Victor said nothing more. Marcus left the study, feeling defeated. Elsewhere in the estate, Elise paced in her suite. She held the photograph and letter. Every few steps, she paused to study the words. She felt torn between anger and hope. She wanted her daughters to know their father if it was Victor. She wanted them to have roots in this family. But she feared being alone if Victor denied them. She feared her daughters would feel unloved by him. She weighed her options. Demand a DNA test, confront Victor publicly, or keep the secret hidden. She shook her head, frustrated. She needed advice. She decided to call her best friend, Rosa, the cook who had befriended her in the kitchen. Rosa answered after one ring. "Elise, Querida, how are you?" Rosa's warm voice lifted Alessa's spirits. Elise swallowed hard. "Rosa, I need your help," she said. She explained what she had found. Rosa listened quietly, her heart tender for her friend. "Listen to me," Rosa said finally. "You're brave, and your daughters mean everything to you. You must protect them and seek the truth. You can ask for a DNA test. You can tell Victor you will not remain until he tells you the truth." Elise nodded. "You're right," she said. "I cannot stay in limbo." Rosa's voice grew firm. "Remember who you are, Elise. You are their mother, and nothing can change that. Do what is right for Mia and Maya." Elise felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. After hanging up, Elise looked at the photograph again. She closed her eyes and made a decision. She would confront Victor. She would ask for proof or a test. She would stand for her daughter's future. That evening, Marcus found Elise in the library, where she often read bedtime stories to the twins. He He sat beside her on a leather armchair. Mia and Maya leaned against Elise, listening to her soft voice. When she finished the story, Marcus waited until the girls ran off to bed. He cleared his throat. Elise, I'm sorry for my father's refusal to talk, he said gently. Elise looked at him, her eyes determined. He won't face the truth, she said. I need to ask for a DNA test. I need to know if Victor is their father. Marcus nodded slowly. Support you, he said. I'll stand by you. Elise's eyes shone with relief. Thank you, she said. This is about my girls. They deserve to know their family. Marcus took her hand. We'll do it tomorrow, he promised. Elise squeezed his hand and smiled faintly. Why, she felt hope rise in her chest. She knew the days ahead would be difficult, but she also felt a fierce strength. For Mia and Maya, she would challenge the richest man in the world. She would demand the truth. And she would protect her daughters, whatever the outcome. Quiet library, Elise vowed that the secrets of the past would no longer bind her family's future. ChatGPT said. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Sunlight streamed through tall windows in the grand estate, falling across gleaming marble floors. Elise felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach as she stood before a full length mirror in her suite. Her white dress hung on a padded hanger nearby. It was simple, yet elegant, with a fitted bodice and a flowing skirt that brushed the floor. The dress did not look like the dresses Elise had once dreamed of. But it fit her now, and she wanted to honor this day for her daughters, and for herself. A gentle knock sounded at the door. Marcus entered wearing a dark suit and a soft smile. You look beautiful, he said simply. Elise felt her cheeks warm. She ran a hand over the bodice, smoothing the fabric. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus adjusted a small flower on her shoulder, the same flower he had picked for her months ago in the garden. It was a quiet reminder of how far she had. Come in the next room. Mia and Maya giggled as they helped each other button their little white dresses. Their hair was braided into 2 neat plaits each, tied with ribbons that matched their mother's gown. They looked like twin doves, light and joyful. Elise watched them, her heart swelling with love. She knelt and kissed each of them on the forehead. My sweet girls, she said, today's our day. They beamed at her, their eyes bright and trusting. In the grand hall, Victor Sterling stood with his back straight and his face unreadable. He wore a formal morning suit, and his silver hair was neatly combed. Around him, staff arranged chairs in perfect rows, polished silver lanterns, and vases of white roses. Outside, a soft breeze stirred the petals on the rose bushes, and the scent drifted through open doors. Guests began to arrive. Family friends, business partners, and a few journalists invited to witness the union. All eyes would be on Elise and Marcus today. Elise and the twins walked down a corridor lined with portraits of Sterling ancestors. Each painting showed stern faces and old-fashioned clothes, but today those eyes seemed to watch with surprise and curiosity. Elise took a deep breath and put on a small veil. She thought of Lily, Victor's lost love, and wondered if her spirit was here in this moment. She placed an arm around each daughter's shoulder. Stay close, she said. The girls nodded, fingers intertwined with hers. Stepped into the hall as soft music began. A string quartet played a simple melody. The guests rose, and Elise felt a hush fall over the room. Marcus stood at the front near a wooden arch decorated with white flowers and greenery. His face lit up when he saw them. Elise held the twins' hands and walked forward. Each step felt heavy with meaning. She thought of her past life in the park, of cold nights and empty bellies. Now, here she was, in a silk dress, walking through a hall that had known only wealth and power. As they reached the arch, Elise paused. The twins pressed close, looking up at Marcus. Mia's eyes were wide. I whispered, "We're here." The guests leaned forward. Victor rose from his chair, his expression calm. Marcus took Elise's free hand, and Mrs. Lawson, the estate manager, stepped aside.
Ow.
The officiant, a kindly judge, cleared his throat.
Ow.
We are gathered here. He began to celebrate the union of Marcus Sterling and Elise Rivera. Elise's heart pounded. She looked at Marcus, who nodded. The judge asked Marcus if he took Elise to be his lawfully wedded wife. Marcus spoke clearly. I do. Elise's legs shook as the judge asked her the same. She looked at Marcus then. at her daughters, and she said, "I do." The room exhaled, and for a moment everything seemed to still. Just then, Mia tugged at Elise's dress. "Mama," she said softly. Marcus turned to look at his stepdaughters. In a clear, innocent voice, Mia said, "Daddy." Maya repeated, "Daddy." Their eyes shone. A ripple of surprise passed through the guests. Elise's breath caught. Victor's face flickered. Marcus blinked, taken aback. Elise felt her pulse quicken. Victor leaned forward, his palms resting on the back of the chair. He stared at the twins. Something in their little faces stirred. A memory. The judge halted, the sweet melody dying in midair. The room fell silent again, but now the silence throbbed with tension. Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came. The twins stood close to Elise, their small hands seeking reassurance. Victor's eyes glistened. He rose slowly from his seat and walked down the aisle toward the arch. Each step echoed in the hall. Guests gasped softly. Elise watched him approach, her mind racing. He stopped beside Marcus and Elise. The twins looked up at him. Victor knelt to their level, put out his arms, and Mia and Maya ran into his embrace. They both called "Daddy" and hugged him tight. Tears filled Victor's eyes as he lifted them. He looked at Elise and then at Marcus. His voice trembled as he said, "I'm so sorry." Marcus and Elise exchanged a stunned glance. The judge cleared his throat softly. Guests murmured. Victor stood, holding the girls. He turned to Marcus and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Son, this is your family too," he said. Marcus's eyes shone. He stepped aside, offering the arch to his father and Elise. The twins giggled and waved. Elise reached for Victor's hand. He held it gently, his fingers brushing hers. Guests stood, some wiping tears. The judge regained his composure and spoke once more. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you father and daughter, and I welcome you into this family." People applauded, laughter and tears mixing in the air. The ceremony changed in that moment. It was no longer a marriage of convenience. It was a reunion of lost lives. Victor knelt again, placing a soft kiss on Elise's hand. "Welcome home, my daughter," he said. Elise felt a surge of relief and joy. She looked at her children and then at Marcus. He moved beside her and slipped an arm around her waist. Afterward, in the sunny gardens, Elise, Victor, Marcus, Mia, and Maya stood together for photographs. White petals fell like snow around them. Guests offered congratulations. Someone handed Elise a glass of sparkling juice. She raised it to Victor, then to Marcus, and finally to her daughters. They toasted 2 new beginnings. Elise felt her heart soar. She knew there would be questions, adjustments, and maybe some regrets. But in this moment, she felt whole. A homeless mother who had once feared the cold and the unknown now stood surrounded by family in a world she never imagined.
Oh.
And at her side were the 2 little girls who had called a billionaire daddy when his heart needed them most. In their innocent voices, they had unlocked the truth, and in that truth, they had found love. Many weeks passed since the wedding day, and life in the Sterling household settled into a new rhythm. Elise rose before dawn each morning to play with Mia and Maya in their cozy bedroom. She made pancakes shaped like little hearts and watched. As the girls giggled while dripping syrup on their plates, their laughter filled the rooms that once echoed with silence. Marcus found these mornings precious. He would peek in while brewing coffee and smile to see his mother, Elise, teaching the girls how to tie their shoes or braid each other's hair. These simple moments, once unimaginable in their grand home, became the heart of their days. By mid-morning, Elise took the twins to their new school across town. The children hurried down the long drive, their backpacks bouncing on their small frames. Elise walked alongside them, offering extra encouragement for shy moments. At the school gate, everyone knew the story. A prestigious family now included. A humble mother and her spirited twins. Some parents whispered in curiosity, but the children treated Mia and Maya just like anyone else. Elise felt proud when her daughters waved goodbye without a trace of fear. She knew they felt safe and accepted, and that gave her hope for their future. Back at the estate, Elise met with Mrs. Lawson and Rosa in the bright kitchen that smelled of fresh basil and warm bread. They had gathered to plan the launch of the Rivera Sterling Foundation, a new charity to help homeless families like Elise's own once had been. Elise felt a tremor of nervous excitement as she looked at the neat stack of papers on the island. Marcus joined them, carrying a tray of iced tea. He offered Elise a glass and said how proud he was of her. His words warmed her heart. Together, they discussed how to use funds wisely: emergency shelters, job training, and family counseling. Each idea made Elise's pulse quicken with purpose. In the afternoons, Marcus often invited Elise to his small office tucked behind the study. He had set aside space to develop his own social enterprise, one that taught financial skills to people who dreamed of starting small businesses. Elise watched him work late into the afternoon, sketching plans on paper and making calls to nonprofit partners. She admired his dedication to help others, and she felt inspired to lend her own voice. She began giving talks at community centers, sharing her story of struggle and hope. When she spoke, people listened. They saw in her the proof that a single act of kindness could change a life forever. One crisp evening, the family gathered in the garden under strings of twinkling lights. A long table stood ready for a special dinner. Everyone from the estate chef to the groundskeeper's family had been invited. Elise had chosen the menu herself: vegetable soup, fresh salad, roasted chicken, and apple pie. Marcus carved the meat while the twins poured lemonade into tall glasses. Victor sat at the head of the table, watching his new family with quiet satisfaction. He raised his glass and said, "Two new beginnings." Elise felt tears well in her eyes as glasses clinked. In that moment, wealth and status faded away, leaving behind only gratitude and togetherness. Over the following months, the foundation grew steadily. Elise met with families who had once slept on park benches or in crowded shelters. She visited small apartments where she taught parents how to budget for rent, groceries, and school supplies. She hugged children who showed her drawings of new homes they dreamed of. Marcus joined her on these visits, and together they brought food baskets and warm coats. Sometimes after a long day, they sat on the back porch of their suite, listening to Mia and Maya chase fireflies in the lawn. They held hands in silence, each filled with gratitude for the chance to serve others. Victor surprised everyone by stepping into the foundation's board meetings. He arrived early, dressed in a simple sweater instead of his usual tailored suit. He listened quietly as Elise and Marcus presented proposals. When he spoke, his voice carried a different gentler tone that came from personal connection. Rather than command, he suggested partnerships with other families of influence who could donate land for tiny houses. He even offered scholarship funds from the Sterling Trust for kids whose parents were struggling. Elise watched him with admiration. She saw in him a man who had learned that true power came from lifting others, not from being lifted above them. One Sunday morning, family took a trip to the old city park where Elise once huddled with Mia and Maya under a tree. They walked the winding paths, now lined with new benches and newly planted flowers funded by the Rivera Sterling Foundation. The twins ran ahead, chasing each other while Elise and Marcus followed hand in hand. When they reached the old spot, Marcus knelt down and picked up a small wooden plaque that bore Elise's name and a simple message: "Here rests hope." Elise's eyes filled with tears as she pressed a hand to the plaque. Mia and Maya joined, her placing their little hands on top. In that simple gesture, the past and present merged, and a promise of a brighter future stood strong. At night, after the twins were tucked into bed, Elise and Marcus often sat in the library with thick volumes about history and human rights. They read stories of activists, visionaries, and everyday heroes. Elise thumbed through pages, absorbing lessons of courage and empathy. Marcus pointed out actions they could adapt for the foundation or his enterprise. They dreamed together of expanding their efforts to other cities, inviting friends and colleagues to join them. The map on the wall, dotted with pins marking each step of their journey, became a symbol of possibility and shared commitment. holiday seasons brought new
joys.
During winter, the estate managers invited children from nearby shelters for a festive party in the grand hall. Mia and Maya helped decorate trees with lights and handmade ornaments. Elise led a reading of a holiday story, and the twins distributed gift boxes of warm clothes and toys. Victor watched from the doorway, his eyes tender as each child's face lit up. Marcus snapped photographs to share on the foundation's website, showcasing smiles brighter than any jewel. Afterward, they all sipped hot cocoa by the fire, and the room hummed with laughter and music. In those moments, the walls of the mansion felt as warm as any home. Through every event and challenge, Elise kept her values close. She insisted on simple truths, honest conversations, and open hearts. She reminded Marcus to rest when he grew weary. She comforted Victor when old worries crept in. And she guided Mia and Maya with gentle hands, teaching them to be kind, courageous, and humble. The family of 5 once strangers from different worlds now moved through life with a shared purpose. They learned from each other and grew together. And every new sunrise brought fresh opportunities to serve, to learn, and to love. At last, one spring afternoon, the Rivera Sterling Foundation hosted its first major gala at the estate. The garden filled with guests, leaders from business, education, and community service. Elise stood on a small stage, her heart beating fast. She looked at the faces before her, some familiar. Some new ones spoke in simple words about her journey from homelessness to family, from fear to hope. She shared stories of the families they had helped and of the dreams that still awaited fulfillment. When she finished, the audience rose in applause. Marcus joined her on stage, and Victor stood at the back, smiling proudly. Mia and Maya peeked from behind a rose bush, clapping with small hands. As the sun set and lanterns lit the garden, Elise felt a deep sense of peace. She thought of the little girl she once was, dreaming of safety and love. She thought of the woman she had become, strong and compassionate. And she thought of her daughters, whose bright eyes reflected her own courage and grace. In that moment, she knew that every hardship, every risk, and every act of kindness had led to this beautiful life. The future still held challenges, but she faced it with a family bound by truth, respect, and love. And so, in the gentle glow of evening light, the Sterling estate, once a place of formality and distance, felt at last like home.